Hello everyone, this is Tom Fox. I would like to welcome you to the Sunday Book Review. The Sunday Book Review is the series where I discuss books which impact the compliance practitioner, the legal professional, and the business professional. I hope you will enjoy this episode. Welcome to the Sunday Book Review for May 9, 2021, the Acrimony in Politics edition. Today we're going to take a look at books which talk about the acrimony in U.S. political history to show that really the more things change, the more they stay the same. And we begin with The Field of Blood by Joann Freeman, which talks about the long-lost story of physical violence on the floor of the U.S. Congress. Drawing on a wide range of sources, the author shows the Capitol was rife with these conflicts in the decades before the Civil War. The caning by Preston Brooks of Charles Sumner is only the most famous of these. Legislative sessions were often punctuated by mortal threats, canings, flip desks, and all-out slugfest. When debate broke down, congressmen drew pistols and waved Bowie knives. One representative even killed another in a duel. Many were beaten and bullied in an attempt to intimidate compliance, particularly those related to the issue of slavery, which obviously ties directly to the white nationalist movement of today. Next up, Lincoln on the Verge, a story by Ted Widmer. As a divided nation plunges into its deepest crisis, Abraham Lincoln boards a train for Washington in his inauguration in 1860, inauguration that Southerners have vowed to prevent. Lincoln on the Verge charts these pivotal 13 days of travel as Lincoln discovers his power, speaks directly to the public, and sees the country up close. Drawing on new research, this riveting account reveals the president-elect as a work in progress, showing him on the verge of greatness as he foils an assassination attempt and forges an unbreakable bond with the American people, overcoming formidable obstacles to take the oath of office. If you think voter suppression is new, well, it's not. And the next book really focuses on that, Tasting Freedom, Octavius Cato and the Battle for Equality in Civil War America by Daniel Biddle. Octavius Cato was an orator who shared stages with Frederick Douglass, a second baseman on Philadelphia's best black baseball team, a teacher at its finest black school, and an activist who fought in the state capitol and on the streets for equal rights. With his racially charged murder, the nation lost a civil rights pioneer, one who risked his life a century before Selma and Birmingham. What emerges is a panorama of the lives and struggles of multiple communities crammed dangerously close together in 19th century Philadelphia. And we conclude with an interesting take on Jesse James by T.J. Stiles. Stiles take a different approach in portraying James. Instead of depicting him as a rebel against the modernizing West, Stiles digs down into what James stood for: partisan murder, white supremacy, and the never-ending Civil War. The James Gang specifically targeted banks and law enforcement institutions associated with the Republican Party, Union forces, and the causes of Reconstruction. But he does not portray James as a stock villain. He learns and reports on his early life, his teen years as a Confederate guerrilla, and the careful management of his own public image. We see James the gunman, but also James the verbose courter of Democratic newspaper editors. He was a skilled political actor who chose in the end to make the war on the very country he came to symbolize. So once again, we see that the more things change, the more they stay the same. Political acrimony and even violence is really not new in American politics. Unfortunately, we are going through that phase now. Thanks for listening. All on this week's Sunday Book Review. We have several new podcasts on the Compliance Podcast Network I would urge you to check out. Low Forecast, the podcast from the Morrison Forrester Law Firm, hosted by James Koukios. We have Coffee and Regs by CSS, which takes a look at RegTech, which premiered this past week. I recently premiered Survive and Thrive, a podcast I co-host with Courtney Nordrum. In this podcast series, we take a look at compliance disasters from history and the lessons learned from them, and more importantly, how you can avoid and prevent them going forward. It's a lot of fun, and Courtney's a great co-host, so check it out. Comtech, a podcast on the intersection of compliance and technology, big brains in compliance. And finally, we have the Compliance Handbook, where I take a deep dive exploration into topics related to the nuts and bolts of compliance. Thanks so much for listening.